Hey, Luke and Jimmy, what are y'all talking about? What are you doing today? Oh, just kicking it.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey again, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. And Jimmy, I tried to make a joke with a kicker. It's difficult sometimes. But Graham Nicholson will be joining Alabama from up north. He was the Lou Groza Award winner. And it's funny because, I don't know, just a couple of months ago, I was cussing him out for beating out Will Reichard for the Lou Groza Award. And now I welcome you with open arms, my friend.
Yeah, there's a little bit of irony there, isn't it? I mean, this was a very unpopular guy with Alabama fans last December. And now he's one of the most popular guys on the team because he's brand new. And he shows up with a wheelbarrow full of awards, including the Lou Groza. Man, I am so impressed with the Kalen DeBoer staff, where they didn't show up. Notice they didn't show up talking about a kicker. Well, we need a kicker. They didn't show up that way. They went through spring practice. And let's be honest, based on what we literally saw from Connor Talty this spring and on A-Day, and from what I hear inside the program, he wasn't great this spring. He didn't create any separation between himself and a couple of the walk-ons like Reed Schuback and Upton Belafonte. He didn't beat those guys out. He was just sort of in competition with them. And then the staff saw, well, here's an opportunity to drastically upgrade because, I mean, you're talking about replacing a redshirt freshman who wasn't even clearly beating out the walk-ons with the most decorated kicker in college football. We've gone from a question mark to the best kicker in Graham Nicholson. So just really impressed by the staff. And then, of course, there's the kid. I looked up his numbers when I heard this was a possibility. I looked up his numbers, and I only had to look them up once because they stuck with me, Luke. This kid is 60 for 71 in his career. That is a stunning number, 60 for 71. So Alabama's got a kicker, and when you pair him with the punter, James Burnham, I think once again, for the second year in a row, Luke, Alabama has the best kicker-punter combo in the whole country. It's a weapon. It's going to help Alabama in close games. And just join me in welcoming Graham Nicholson to the Alabama football program. Oh, you're muted. The irony is I was about to mute and cough. And then when I was about to mute and cough, then there you were muted. We can't both be muted.
That would make for one hell of a show. Welcome to Locked On Bama and 32 minutes of silence. Yeah, so I'm fired up about this, Jimmy. I really am. I look, if you don't think a kicker is important, just try not having one. I will say this. It's better to not ever kick than have a bad kicker. Would you agree? Like, if you have a kicker that's like 50-50 on every field goal, no matter where it's from, I would almost rather just go for him.
Those Ivy League numbers crunchers insist that they're not football coaches, but the numbers crunchers, they insist that football's doing it all wrong and then everybody should always go for it on fourth down.
Understood. But
so I think there's something to what you're saying. It's hey, if you got a bad kicker, the Harvard and Yale folks are telling us we need to go for it anyway.
Yeah.
But if you got a bad kicker, heck yeah.
But my point is, if you have a bad kicker, there's nothing worse than thinking you get to I don't know how you are, and we shouldn't feel this way because kicking a field goal is difficult. But when my team, whoever I'm cheering for at the given time, Alabama in college always, but like high school or pro or whatever, or whoever I bet on, that if my team gets to the 30-yard line or in, I always think, okay, well, I'm at least going to get 3 points out of this. I should not feel that way. A 47-yard field goal is difficult. I shouldn't feel that way, but I do. But let's say if I get to the 20, I'm thinking it's automatic 3, like not screwing around, like totally got this in the bag. And when you miss one from, say, 35 to 40 yards, which we all have been conditioned to believe that's routine now, when we miss one like that, it takes the air out of you. And it's like the defense celebrates so much, and it changes momentum. Missing a field goal can change a lot of momentum. Just ask anybody who was at the kick six. We all talk about the kick six, that kick being missed. There were like 3 other missed kicks in that game by us that could have won it, and we just blew it. Don't get me started, Jimmy. Why'd you even talk?
I do think, because we're Alabama fans, we have spent too much time over the years assuming we're going to make kicks that aren't made. And even Reichard, Reichard's awesome, super elite, best kicker in school history. And we can point to Reichard missing kicks that hurt. I mean, Tennessee up there in Knoxville certainly is the one that comes to mind quickly. I think it led him to returning to school, frankly, in 2023, because he was still upset about missing that kick in Knoxville in 2022. So I just think that you can't assume kicks, even with Graham Nicholson showing up, who missed 1 kick last season. He made 25 in a row at one point. Now, here's a couple of things I went and looking over his numbers that you can't help but notice. Number one is his longest field goal ever, despite having 70 attempts in college, is 52 yards. That's not super long distance for college football. So his range, I wouldn't go anywhere. If it's 52 and in, I would hardly say that that's limited, but his range isn't outstanding. He also weirdly, and this is just weird, Luke, for somebody who's 60 of 71, he missed a bunch of extra points. And when I say he missed a bunch of extra points, he's missed a lot. Now, that number I don't have in front of me, but I believe he's missed, off the top of my head, Luke, he's missed as many as 10.
Were they blocked?
No.
Okay.
That's just weird, because his field goals are harder.
How did he beat out Will Reichard?
He only missed 2 extra points I think he missed 2 or 3 last season, but he missed like 6 his sophomore year and a couple his freshman year. He almost has as many missed extra points as missed field goals, almost. So it is sort of nuts. But hey, that's when you're talking about him missing a couple of extra points over his 3-year career, I'm sort of talking about the mole on Cindy Crawford's face. I mean, it's not that bad. Miss a couple extra points, but
Cindy, I can forgive you for the mole. I mean, jeez.
I don't complain about the mole. I like the mole on Cindy Crawford's face, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, look, she made moles sexy. There's no doubt about it. Wouldn't even get it checked. All right, Jimmy, I got to tell everybody about LinkedIn here. We love LinkedIn. You love LinkedIn. I don't even know. You don't even need me to tell you about LinkedIn, but I'm gonna, because you're probably already using it. Because when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. What are you, nuts? LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. That's what it's known for. That's what they do. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, they might not have time or resources to hire. So go check out LinkedIn Jobs. Look, 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Are you saying they're all wrong? They're not. They're right. They're doing it the right way. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. And hopefully my son won't call me during the live read again. But terms and conditions, they're probably going to apply. I mean, my mom will call me at the absolute worst times. My kids are in second place. Like for every day, y'all can be getting in the shower and my mom will call and have nothing to say, by the way. And then I'll get out of the shower and call her back. She goes, "What'd you do? Look down on the phone and see it was me and decide to call me later?" I said, "No, I was getting in the shower. Is that okay?" She says, "Well, I just pick up the phone when people answer. When people call." And I said, "Okay." So I get yelled at a lot for that, but
yeah, I get it. I get it's the nature of my job, and I'm sure your job too, but it's the nature of my job. I get a lot of texts and quite a few calls, mostly to talk about Alabama sports and football. So mostly it's professional, even if some of it's personal. But the point is, it's just impossible. I can't text or calls the moment I get them. Usually, I'm usually tied up, but I get back to people pretty quick.
Jimmy, is there anybody else in the portal that Alabama can be looking at here? I know that they had at least some loose ties to I saw them mentioned with the Penn State wide receiver who visited Auburn. I don't know that they're going to go after a wide receiver, though. Is there
No.
anybody else out there you think Alabama, maybe a tackle?
I've heard specifically from sources that the only receivers they would consider would be a game-breaking number one guy, a guy that no one would turn away. They would take that guy. But keep in mind, a guy like that, like a top receiver that would be, the number one guy in the country or up there, that guy's also going to have a price tag that they might not be too interested in. I do think this staff is more of a spender in the portal and with recruiting in terms of NIL than the last staff, but they're not stupid. They're not going to radically overpay for anyone because that's just not wise or good business. When you overpay for one, now you got to overpay for 20 because everybody on the team knows what you paid.
You said that this staff would probably spend more. I think they have to. Sort of like saying, a business will have to spend more this year on gas than they did the previous year because gas prices have gone up. You know what I mean?
Some of it is literally inflation, and some of it is that they cost more. But I think that Sabin, I think it's fair to use that term Sabin discount. A lot of players looked at Alabama and wanted to play for Nick Saban because of Nick Saban's track record of putting players in the first round of the draft. And some are like, hey, I'll take a little less to play at Alabama because I know in the long run, this is going to pay off for me. It's fair that kids don't yet have that same confidence in DeBoer. So Alabama's just kind of one of the other elite schools. And what Alabama's paying NIL wise is a bigger factor now than it was in previous classes. So I do think they're spending more and they will spend more, but they're also not dumb. As I say all the time, the Yankees and the Dodgers, they can afford virtually anyone and everyone, but they don't. They pick and choose, and they do what they believe is smart, even though their budget is larger than other teams. You still have to spend smartly and not overpay. And I think in college, Luke, it's even more important because these kids are very, territorial or jealous or, but what I'm saying is, who's the best player on the team? Tyler Booker. Okay. Let's say Tyler Booker makes X amount because he's the best offensive lineman at Alabama and maybe the best guard in the country. Well, if Alabama went to the portal or worse, went to the high school and signed an offensive lineman and had to pay him more than they're paying Booker, if you're Booker, you're like, you got to be kidding me. All that I do here and I'm a starter and I'm not even the highest paid lineman on this team. So that's just what I mean by this is all complicated. A lot of fans just say, pay them what they want. Oh, I don't care what they cost. Pay it. Things are never that simple. You have to manage the team, and there is a budget. Alabama only has so much NIL money. Everyone only has so much. You can only spend what you have. So all of that complicates things. But in the end, I do think in terms of who's going to be a big spender, I think Alabama is going to spend more now than they did when Coach Sabin was here.
One guy that we know we won't be getting is Greedy Vance, who like 10 minutes after we'd cut our podcast talking about Greedy Vance and maybe coming to Alabama, he committed to USC. More power to him. That's fine. I mean, I'm not mad. Hey, could you at least given our podcast like an hour to marinate? But
and he's a law. Alabama would like to have had him on campus and like to bring him up for a visit. I think Alabama was still in the we're evaluating phase. So it wasn't a loss because I don't think this was a guy who had an offer and could commit. I think it was more of we are quite interested in what we know so far. We would like to know more. Can you come to our campus? And he committed before that ever happened. Alabama has, and you asked Luke when we started this segment, it's a big question. Is Alabama still continuing to shop the portal? The answer is yes, they definitely are. And I think the position that they're interested in is cornerback, like Greedy Vance. But they won't take just any cornerback. I mean, why do that? The only reason to take someone from the portal, even though it's a need, but you don't take anyone that you look at on tape and you go, I mean, right now, Alabama's starting corners per A-Day were Damani Jackson and Sabin Brown. So let's assume that Damani being a junior and Sabin being a freshman, that it's Damani 1 and Sabin 2. Well, you only look at the portal for someone that you know is an upgrade over Sabin. I mean, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only reason that you're going to the portal is to upgrade the starting situation with some experience. And bringing in someone with experience is important, but you're also not, I mean, heck, the guy at Furman or the Citadel or William and Mary has some experience, but they're probably not nearly as good as Zabin Brown, so that's the balancing act. It's not just, hey, we need a guy from the portal. Yeah, but he's got to improve our situation and be willing to come here, because some kids aren't. Because you know why? Because some kids go, yeah, I would like to play, and I can name all of your cornerbacks. I know who they are because I keep up with recruiting. I know Damani Jackson. I know Zabin Brown. I know Zay Mincy. I know Jalen Mbakwe. I know Jaleel Hurley. I'm not going there. So that's why all of this is complicated and not simple.
You know what else is kind of funny I just thought about? I don't know if any of us know for sure, and I'd be willing to bet they're all very close, that Damani Jackson is better than Greedy Vance, who's better than Des Ricks. And really all these guys are just sort of moving around in a circle. And we're just, you know what I'm saying? I don't know for sure.
You make a great point, because where did Greedy Vance sign? Southern Cal. Why does Southern Cal need a corner? Because they lost Damani Jackson to Alabama.
I think Damani Jackson's probably better. I know he was more ballyhooed out of high school, but Des Ricks was pretty ballyhooed out of high school. And now Des Ricks a little bit younger. But again, it's just funny how this thing is just you really could have stayed where you were.
Had Des Ricks stayed, I wouldn't know. I'm just guessing. Had Des Ricks stayed, in my opinion, he would be a starting.
Hey, if Des Ricks had stayed, yeah, that's the thing. If Des Ricks, he takes Damani's position probably,
or Zabin's position.
Zabin's position. Yeah. Well, I'm saying let's assume Damani doesn't come.
Yeah, then you got a problem. Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah. I mean, you needed Alabama at the time they took Damani. I don't think had any idea how bad they needed him. They needed a corner, but the need for corner really. I mean, that's where you had all this attrition. I mean, the number of DBs they lost is pretty crazy, and a lot of these guys would have. Heck, I'll tell you a guy that might have been in a good position had he stayed is Antonio Kite. Who left to just go to Auburn. And now that is not to say I am really impressed with Zabin Brown. I think Zabin's going to be one heck of a football player. I just think any of us out there should be nervous that we might have a true freshman cornerback starting this fall. And that's what it looks like the situation is going to be as of right now.
All right, Jimmy, when we come back, I'm going to just mention a quarterback Alabama's pursuing, and then we're going to talk a little NFL draft. As it stands, though, I'm going to tell you about FanDuel. I mentioned earlier that occasionally I might place a wager. And if I were to do so, I'd like to do it on FanDuel because it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL, and baseball is in full swing. FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. You can't beat that. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Well, at the end of this podcast, but after that, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Okay, so Kellen Russell been committed to SMU for some time. People forget SMU's in the ACC now. So, I mean, like SMU, well, they're in a big conference now, pretty big. I mean, it's not the SEC, but sorry, Danny Cannell. But Kellen Russell has been shooting up a lot of charts. He's, according to On3, the number 8 quarterback in the country. And I suspect that as his season gets kicked off, he will move up even further. He's like number 78 on y'all's list overall. I suspect he will move up even more. People tend to really they're really flocking to this kid right now. So Kellen Russell would not be a backup plan by any stretch of the imagination. I like him a lot. And Alabama's trying to flip him, at least to a degree. I don't know that, could he commit right now, Jimmy? That's hard to say.
I don't think he can commit now, but I think that day is coming. I mean, by the way, I mean, now that you mentioned it, it's a great segue into the fact that Alabama's assistant coaches hit the road today. I mean, Alabama for 30 days. For 30 days, assistant coaches this time of the year can hit the road. And Nick Sheridan, Alabama's quarterback coach and offensive coordinator, is going to see Kellen Russell. I don't know if that's today. but I know it's soon. And that's a major stop on the Nick Sheridan tour. I watched some Keelan Russell tape today. He is a riser, as Luke said, totally true. He's a guy that's highly rated already, but moving up. I believe he's already been invited, and by invited, you earn your way there. I think he's won his way to the Elite 11 finals in California, which is a big, big, big deal. He did really well in that. Watching his tape, he's a guy, what immediately comes to mind for me, Luke, is he's got a really good feel for the quarterback position. He can do a lot of things. He throws the ball on time when it's called for, meaning 3-step drop, ball out, 5-step drop, ball out, 3-step drop, ball out. He does that. But he also can, hey, the play broke down, so I got to roll out and get off platform and make a throw with my feet moving. He can do that. He also is an exceptional athlete. He's not a 4-4 guy. He's not Jalen Milroe, but he's a really good athlete, and he seems to pick his spots well. He's not quick to run, but when he does, he makes a play. I mean, he's an athlete, skinny. I mean, that's what, is that a drawback? I don't know. He's kind of 6'2", maybe, and thin. It would be great if he filled out a little bit.
He's no thinner than Deuce Knight. No thinner
True. Also thinner.
McIntyre.
And no thinner than Jaden Daniels. And frankly, now that I say that, I'd never until this when I watch the tape again, well, I'm not sure Jaden Daniels is so fast. I mean, to me, Jaden Daniels is like a 4-3 guy or 4-4. So maybe Jaden Daniels isn't a great comp, but it's not bad. I think when you watch Keelan and say, is this guy Jaden Daniels? I think you might see it a little bit, So I'm a fan for sure, and I'm interested. The only thing that just gives me pause is something silly, Luke, and that's if you'd have told me 3 months ago that our quarterback in this class would be Keelan Russell, I'd be like, what? Because at one point, it seemed like it would be Juju. It seemed like it would be Deuce Knight. Me and you are both KJ Lacey fans. There's other guys that are currently, George McIntyre was a guy that looked very possible for Alabama. And so
the guy that just committed to Missouri, whose name escapes me now, Zollers.
Yeah, they're interested in him. So when you add all that up, I'm like, really? You ended up with Keelan Russell? But then you watch the Keelan Russell tape and you understand the Keelan Russell recruitment, and you're like, wait a minute, this kid's elite as any of them. And he really is. I mean, he's as elite as those other kids. And his stock is shooting through the roof. Don't be confused by that SMU commitment, by the way. A couple of reasons. Number one, I mean, Dallas and Texas is a hotbed for quarterbacks, period. Secondly, SMU is a ascending program, and they're good at quarterback. Their coach is that Rhett Lashley guy, last seen in the state of Alabama as a 19-year-old offensive guru at the side of Gus Malzahn. He looked like he was 19, and he literally was in his 20s then. Yeah. And I was saying back then, I'm like, hey, keep your eye on Rhett Lashley. He's going to be a thing. And here he is, a thing. So he got this kid to commit. And so Rhett Lashley may be ahead of the rest of the country in identifying Keelan Russell as a big-time guy.
So really quickly, we won't jump into a lot of draft talk right now because, I kind of want to get a little closer. But, of course, Thursday is the first day of the NFL draft, and it seems like everybody is picking Dallas Turner to go to the Falcons, which I'm down with. Hey, look, I like the Falcons. Okay. Then it becomes kind of crazy after that. But now I think the consensus is Alabama's going to have 4 first-round picks. That seems like an awesome deal. Now, what's going to be weird is next year, unless it's Jalen Milroe, I don't know who would be a first-round pick next year.
Well, what's interesting to me is
and I'm not saying Jalen Milroe will be. I'm saying unless
he could be. I think he could be. In terms of who will be, I say Booker.
Yeah, Tyler Booker. Deontay Lawson?
And Deontay Lawson. I think, Luke, I'll name 3 that to me are going to be first-round picks, or I would be willing to bet at least, a quarter. Tyler Booker, Deontay Lawson, and how about Jahad Campbell, who is yet to play like a first-round pick, but I can so easily see him becoming that. That's a bit of a projection, but to me, it's sort of you can see that coming. But here's the weird thing about projecting all 3 to be first-round picks. The draft isn't kind to guards or inside linebackers. You really have to be exceptional to be a guard or an inside linebacker that's taken in the first round. So I do think, like Luke says, the next draft is real interesting for Alabama. I've written about this on BOL. we have what could be a large contingent of Alabama players in the next draft, but there's a lot of maybes. There's not a lot of certainty there, but there is a lot of maybes, and most of the maybes at Alabama tend to work out, in a positive manner for us, but maybes. And I would include Booker, Lawson, and Campbell as maybe first rounders because the NFL just doesn't care for guards and inside linebackers. Milroe is an interesting potential first-round pick, though, no doubt.
If Milroe really turns it on this year, he will be a first-round pick. I mean, there's too much potential that somebody will salivate. I mean, just say, I got to have it.
I would say Anthony Richardson. A lot of people invoke that name. I do for different reasons than others, but a lot of people say, well, if Anthony Richardson can be the fourth pick, Milroe's a first-round pick. First of all, I think that's underselling what Anthony Richardson brought to the table. And so far, it looks like Richardson's going to be a good NFL player. It's a small sample size. The Colts love him. The Colts still say, hey, he's our guy. And that's after him practicing and playing in a few games. But I don't think Milroe is Anthony Richardson, but I think he's enough like Anthony Richardson to where if he improves, and there's got to be a lot of improvement in terms of downfield on-time accuracy, there's got to be a lot of improvement there. But if there is improvement there, then you throw in the Anthony Richardson type tools. It's not crazy at all to say Jalen Milroe is a first-round pick. But again, the improvement has to happen first.
All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.